We're nearing the end of the road. Maybe Week 9 is your team's senior night like the Vinton County Vikings. Or maybe you're fighting for a playoff spot like Southern, or trying to hold on to your conference lead like Chillicothe. Whatever the case may be, it's a no-nonsense Week 9. We went to 7 games this week, all with playoff implications. We'll run through them all next on Gridiron Glory. Welcome to the Gridiron Glory, folks. As hard as it is to believe, this is our 10th week on the air and the 9th week for the guys on the Gridiron. I'm your host, Blake Baker, joined by co-host Noah Wolf. Just listen to my voice, you can tell we got some late season football weather out there.
Yeah, Blake, October really brought the cold weather. A little bit of rain tonight, but we got all the action in, and we've got an action-packed show. 2 MVL playoff hopefuls in action, a couple matchups at the top of the Hocking, and a chance to end Nelsonville York's TVC Ohio dominance.
And the FAC, the smallest conference with some big implications. We lead off with them. We kick off our game action in Chillicothe tonight. The Blue Lions traveled to Chillicothe in their FAC matchup tonight. And FAC reporter Will Collins went out to Chillicothe to see this one go down.
Blake, tonight we saw the league's highest-powered offense square off with one of its stingiest defenses. When Washington Courthouse came to town, Chillicothe did not back down and tried their best to tame the Blue Lion offense. But Gio Thomas and company proved to be a lot to handle for the Cavaliers tonight. You see, it was Breast Cancer Awareness Night in Chillicothe tonight. Fans, the band, and the cheerleaders decked out in pink, but the Cavs are ready to take on the Blue Lions. Now, early in game action, Gio Thomas, after an early Chillicothe fumble, it's 4th down for the Blue Lions, and he gets taken down by Chris Postage. Now, on the next Chillicothe drive, Dylan Stewart shoots the gap. He sees Jaquan Harris. He takes him down in the backfield for a loss as well. After a couple 3-and-outs by each team, Dylan Stewart punting here to Jaquan Harris, a dangerous return man for Chillicothe, but he muffs the punt, and Washington Courthouse is able to fall in it, but nothing comes of the drive, which seemed to be most of this game. But Beverly here on the next Chillicothe drive gets flushed out of the pocket, but finds none other than Cortland Duncan in the end zone, a 26-yard score. He gave our cameraman some love there. Now on the next Blue Lion drive, Gio Thomas there complete to Eli Lynch, who gets hit hard, but it was one of Gio Thomas's 5 completions on his way to a Dylan Stewart touchdown from 2 yards out, but they would be down 7-6 after a failed 2-point conversion. Now later on in the 3rd quarter, we saw Omar Porter reel in this incredible 32-yard touchdown catch to put the Blue Lions ahead 14-7 after this Dylan Stewart 2-point conversion, but the game would go final tonight in Chillicothe, 20-7 Washington Courthouse.
Man, huge win for Courthouse, but both Chillicothe and the Blue Lions seemed to struggle early on in this one. What led to the early miscues?
Well, Blake, a host of early penalties and turnovers got things off to a rough start in this ball game.
And just how much of a problem were those turnovers for each team?
Turnovers were an issue throughout the game tonight. Chillicothe turned the ball over 3 different times, and Courthouse turned it over once. The Cavaliers turning the ball over on their second play from scrimmage set the tone for how this game would end up. Courthouse's defensive and special teams units got their jobs done by forcing crucial errors. The Blue Lions won the turnover battle tonight, and that definitely helped propel them to victory over Chillicothe. Even with their loss, though, the Chillicothe Cavaliers remain at the top of the conference in a tie for first with the Hillsboro Indians. The Indians took down Courthouse, who lost to Chillicothe, who Chillicothe lost to in last week. So Week 10 will determine if we have an outright champion or a shared title this season. Jackson comes in 3rd in the conference with 2 losses. Washington Courthouse is 4th at 2-2, and Jackson, because of their loss to Jackson earlier this season. The McClain Tigers are 5th in the league with a 1-3 record, and last in the conference are the Panthers of Miami Trace, who have yet to win a conference game this season.
Will, like usual, you really know your FAC football, man. Thanks for the great work tonight. Our writers have been working real hard to bring you all the essential information this time of year. So give them some props, people. You can check out all their work on our website, woub.org/gridiron. It's not just the people you see on Friday nights grinding away to give you the goods. There's more than meets the eye, and it's at woub.org/gridiron. Now, Jackson is one of our teams currently in the playoff hunt, but McClain, man, they are improved, and they were looking for a huge upset tonight. FAC reporter Brandon Monty saw if Jackson could gain some ground in Greenfield.
Well, Blake, both Jackson and McClain were looking for a get-well game this week, but both teams were coming off tough losses, but Jackson is still in the FAC hunt, while McClain was trying to play the role of spoiler. The Tigers were looking to defend home turf at McClain Field, but Jackson's offense wasted no time setting the tone in this matchup. Brody Landrum takes this rush 37 yards to the McClain 8-yard line, and then Landrum finishing what he started, finding the end zone here, 7-0 Jackson. McClain trying to respond. Eric Anderson under pressure lost this one up, and it's picked off by guess who? Landrum, getting it done on both sides of the ball and able to make some noise after the pick as well before being pushed out of bounds. And then 4 plays later, Jaden Spires goes right up the gut for a 3-yard touchdown. Jackson goes up 14-0 just 4 minutes into this one. After a Tiger 3-and-out, the Iron Men look to move through the air. Jarrett Eisenhower rolls to his right, looks to go downfield, but Richie Everhart jumps in front of his assignment for the interception, but the Tigers would stall on offense again, and the Iron Men would capitalize. Second play of their drive, Bryce Parks streaks up the right sideline, throws a nasty stiff arm at this poor defender here, and is pushed through the pylon for 6, 21-0 Iron Men. Then Jackson driving again. Eisenhower finds his man on a slant route inside the 5, and then Eisenhower doing it with his feet too. Taking the keeper, 2 yards for the score. That made it 34-0, and it was all Ironmen in this one, folks. 55-0, the final score. Blake, both FAC games tonight played a big role in how the top 2 teams, Chillicothe and Jackson, will match up for Week 10 and how the conference will ultimately shape out.
Yeah, and they've certainly been looking forward to this one already. And like you mentioned, these conference standings are definitely shaking up. Thank you for going out to this game and running back for us tonight, Brandon. Taylor Jedrzak, he stayed at home tonight to break down all the FAC playoff projections. Taylor, what's in the outlook for this league?
Well, Blake, in a word, it's complicated. Chillicothe came into tonight needing just 1 win in their last 2 games, but a home game against Courthouse and the Blue Lions' struggling defense seemed to be a great opportunity to get that last win. However, now the Cavaliers will face a must-win situation against Jackson next week. Chillicothe still has dropped all the way down to a 42% chance to make the playoffs. And that will go up to a 77% chance next week with a win over the Ironmen, but a loss will keep them out of the playoffs altogether. Meanwhile, the Blue Lions needed to pull off this upset to keep their slim chances alive. With this win, their chances at qualifying for the Division IV playoffs are still at just 5%. Washington will still need a lot of help, but yes, Blue Lions, you still have a chance. In Division III, we have our only lock for the playoffs. With their victory over Miami Trace, Hillsborough has locked themselves into the Region 11 playoffs as a likely 5 seed. Jackson, however, faces a must-win situation against Chillicothe next week. If they win, Jackson will likely be a 7 or 8 seed in Region 11 with a win over the Cavs. And a conference title and playoff berths will be at stake next week at Herrnstein Field between Jackson and Chillicothe. But we also have a battle in the MVL. John Glenn and New Lex played tonight with the playoffs on the line, and Noah's got more on that one.
Thanks, Taylor. The Little Muskies gave themselves a huge boost last week with an upset victory over Tri-Valley, boosting them into 5th in Division IV Region 15. In the same region, New Lexington finds themselves on the outside looking in, but a win over John Glenn could do a lot to shake up the playoff picture. The stakes were so high in this one that I had to go see it for myself. Now, New Lex's Panther statue was all smiles before the game, but Panther fans wouldn't be smiling for long. On the opening kickoff, it's a low one, but Joseph Clifford doesn't have any trouble scooping it up. He also doesn't have any trouble breaking tackles and getting around defenders. He takes this one toward the seam, then breaks out toward the middle, and no one is catching Clifford. 70 yards to the house on the opening kickoff of the game. Talk about taking the crowd out of it early. Nasty stiff arm for good measure, too. New Lex trying to mount a comeback, but Christian Vance, the ball pops out of his hands and into the hands of a John Glenn Little Muskie. They'll take over at their own 17. And on their first play from scrimmage, Zacharich airs this one out, and it's Clifford down the right sideline. 83 yards, he'll take this one to the house. They lead it 14-0 after running just 1 offensive play. After another touchdown by the Little Muskies, New Lex gets the ball back. Logan Ratcliffe picks up the dropped fumble, recovers this broken play, and takes it for a first down for the Panthers. But on the ensuing series, 3rd and 12, he is sacked by Eric Stallion, and New Lex has to punt. Now, it looked like they forced a John Glenn 3-and-out, but the punt is muffed by New Lexington. The Little Muskies catch a huge break and take over at the New Lex 30-yard line. 6 plays later, it's Zacharich again. The screen to Brady Emerson, and the running back does most of the work here, plowing his way into the end zone. 28-0 at that point. The 2 teams trade interceptions 2 more times before Evan Williams finds Reese Perkins to put the Muskies up 34-0, which would be the final. Now, New Lexington looked like they could get things going a few times, but ended up shooting themselves in the foot more often than not. Early on, the Panthers were relying heavily on junior running back Christian Vance. On their opening 2 drives, Vance got the ball for 10 of New Lex's 12 offensive plays. But eventually, those drives began to stall, and New Lexington tried to shift to the pass. They did themselves a favor with 2 defensive interceptions toward the end of that first half, but the first and only offensive play on each of those 2 drives gave the ball right back to the Little Muskies. Meanwhile, on offense, John Glenn's main man was Joseph Clifford, who had 3 of their 5 total touchdowns. Thanks to him, the Little Muskies are sitting pretty for the playoffs. John Glenn currently sits 5th in Division IV Region 15, according to Joe Idle. With their win tonight, they gave themselves a 99% chance of making it to the playoffs and an outside chance at a home game, according to Drew Pastor's Fantastic 50. If they take care of business next week against the Ceramics, they're in no matter what. Meanwhile, things don't look as promising for the Panthers, according to Joe Idle. They sit 3 spots outside their playoffs in their region. And Drew Pastor gives them just a 1% chance to make it to Week 11, even if they win a tough road battle against the 6-3 Philo Electrics next week. And the Electrics need to win that game just as much as New Lex does. Now, John Glenn looks awfully strong. Meanwhile, New Lex basically needs a miracle to see Week 11 play, but they're not eliminated yet, and anything can happen in the final week of the regular season. Our tweet of the week comes from friend of the program, Maggie Wright. Surely you remember Philo's hydration specialist from a couple weeks ago. This week, she's showcasing an improvement to Sam Hatfield Stadium. The Philo Electrics got a new home locker room. Maggie, we love, love, love this tweet. Thanks for sending it our way. Now, speaking of Philo, their regular season play is coming down to the wire. MVL reporter Rebecca Markovitz is here to see if they took care of business against Morgan tonight.
Philo is fighting for a spot in the playoffs right now, so these last couple games in their season are crucial. Meanwhile, Morgan went into this game hoping to break their 4-game losing streak. The weather brought the rain, but Philo brought the lightning. First drive of the game, Hunter Adolph hands it off to Casey Munyon, who dives into the end zone to put the Electrics up 7-0 4 minutes into the game. Morgan can't convert on 3rd and 6, so Casey Munyon breaks 1 tackle, 2 tackles, and goes 40 yards, making it 14-0. A play later, Wesley Palsy makes a breakthrough play. He too fakes out a couple defenders and is brought down on the Philo 47. To set up this next play, Lucas Waters throws a perfectly placed throw 38 yards to Colton Young, and the Raider fans go wild. It's 14-7. Philo sneaks in another TD before the end of the first quarter. Munyon breaks through the pack and goes untouched the rest of the way to put Philo up 21-7. But early in the second quarter, it is Palsley again who turns on the wheels, and you can hear his teammates telling him to go. But he gets knocked out of bounds, so the Raiders don't get anything there. However, they do minutes before half. Palsley outdoes Munyon's 40-yard TD and takes this one 74 yards. But Philo poured it on after half and won this one 55-14.
Even though this one was a blowout, this was one of Morgan's better games, wasn't it?
It was one of Morgan's highest scoring games this season, and Wesley Palsley had a game. He touched the ball just about every play and got into scoring territory so Colton Young could finish it off. Young scored both the touchdowns in the first half.
Similarly, Casey Munyon had all the touchdowns for Philo in the first quarter.
He did, and what set Philo's offense apart from Morgan's was that Munyon had his other teammates to help carry the load. Palsley was visibly fatigued in the second quarter, and that affected the Raiders' offense.
So speaking of other players to help carry the load, what was Aaron Phillips doing at quarterback in the second quarter?
Well, Hunter Adolph went down on a play, and he was limping off the field. He did not play the rest of the game, so depending on his injury, Philo might have to make some adjustments moving forward.
So, moving forward, what does this win mean for Philo?
I spoke to Coach Lincecum before the season even started, and he said if Philo is able to have a strong presence in the league, then playoffs should take care of itself. So this game solidifies Philo staying in the top half of the league, and as far as playoffs, according to Joe Idle, Philo sits unofficially 7th in the region. So Noah, you already talked about John Glenn's playoff chances, so with that in mind, we could see a repeat of last year, a Philo-John Glenn face-off in the regional finals. Morgan's losing streak continues, but Philo certainly made this game count. It'll be interesting to see what playoffs will bring this year.
Thanks, Blake. Now a run-heavy game in the MVL. We'll shift to a run-heavy game in the TVC Hawking with Blake and Nick in the Highlight Center.
Thank you, Noah. This next game might not decide the Hawking championship, but both teams needed a victory tonight to keep postseason hopes alive. So we sent Hawking reporter Nick Niehaus out to Belpre tonight for their matchup against Eastern.
Yeah, Belpre, they had a pretty good, they're sitting at 3rd place in the Hawking with just 1 loss in conference. But these Eastern Eagles have improved during the season. After starting 0-4, they've won 4 in a row to get back to 500. Now, Belpre, they're trying to end that 4-game winning streak coming out in the all black. on senior night. I love it. Eastern gets the ball first, though, and this is Connor Ridenauer finding his man Dylan Creeth, but he drops the wide open pass, giving Belpre the ball. So Belpre gets the ball, and Jesse Collins gets the ball. This one on the left side, and nobody touches him. 75 yards long into the end zone. Would be 7-0, but this one is getting called back. Flag on the play, and Belpre's forced to punt. That gives Eastern the ball back, and Ridenauer finds Blaze Facemeyer wide open again, and he drops it again. And Connor Baker for Belpre finds Foster Brand, and yet another drop. This one gets caught, though, by Blake Newen. 28 yards long, weaving in and out of defenders before he gets pushed out of bounds, and that sets up this 3rd and 18 play where Brogan Williams, gets the pass 19 yards to keep the drive alive, and Gavin Freeland, he doesn't want them to score, sacks Ridenauer on 4th down, giving Connor Baker the ball in red zone 15 yards out, spinning into the end zone, makes it 7-0, and I promise you this isn't the same play. It may look like it, but this one's 22 yards out, and he's trying to get in the end zone, but reaches just short. They would kick a field goal and win this one 30-7, not 20-7 on the graphic. Sorry about that.
Well, Nick, we certainly saw a lot of passing in those highlights. We don't normally see that. Were they slinging around the whole time?
Well, not so really much for Belpre. They kind of handed the ball after their cowbell back, Jesse Collins, most of the game. But for Eastern, though, their run game was simply not working out. Gavin Freeland was his usual self wreaking havoc in the backfield. That forced them to air it out a lot more in the second quarter, especially, which they weren't too successful at. We saw those 2 drops, but they had plenty more incompletions that forced them to punt the game away. And Belpre's offense, they were clicking, putting up 30, but really it was all about Jesse Collins, and he was a tough man to take down. It takes at least a couple defenders to bring him down, and their quarterback, Connor Baker, is fast and shifty. This Golden Eagle team has a couple of weapons that Eastern just couldn't defend.
Well, with this win, Belpre improves to 3-0. More importantly, to keep themselves alive for the hunt in the playoffs, don't they?
Yeah, they now have a 6% chance to make the tournament, and if they win next week against Waterford, they jump all the way up to 21%, making next week's game even more important to the Golden Eagles. But they do need a lot of help from other teams. 3 separate games in Week 10 determine their fate. If they do make the playoffs, the opponent they most likely will be playing against is an undefeated Paint Valley team. And unfortunately for Eastern fans, with the loss tonight, they have been officially eliminated from any playoff hopes. But, Blake, they have another week to play against a Southern team and hopefully spoil their playoff hopes.
And sometimes that can feel good, especially against a big rival. I got to ask you, though, Belpre had a bleak outlook to the start of the season, but they've really turned it around. Big matchup against Waterford next week. What do you expect out of that?
Well, yeah, you can thank Jesse Collins for that. He's really their best. I mean, he's their best player on offense. He is a tough man to take down, as I said earlier. Yeah. I'm not sure how it's going to fare out against Waterford because unlike Belpre, I think Waterford has more of a dimension in it. They can pass and they can run, where Belpre, all we've really seen them do pretty much is run the ball with Jesse Collins.
Yeah, they threw it a lot in this one, but they got to shore up those drops.
Yep.
Nick, thanks a lot for the great work. We put out 4 videos on your Twitter timelines this week, and like all of our other videos, those live on our YouTube page. The playoff picture is coming into focus, so check out what our reporters have to say each week. We are dedicated to dropping all the knowledge you need as the season closes out. So your job is to go to WOUB PBS on YouTube and find Gridiron Glory and watch what we got. And keeping it in the Hawking, next up is Trimble versus Southern. And to get the scoop on this game, we sent not 1, but 2 Hawking reporters, Sam Neesmith and T. Willis. What'd you guys see on that field tonight?
Well, Blake, T and I saw a battle between two powerhouse offenses under the lights in Racine.
The Tomcats came into the game undefeated in the Hawking, and they showed no signs of slowing down tonight. The Southern Tornadoes, on the other hand, are trying to keep hope alive and spark a playoff berth.
And here we go. The Tornadoes are feeling confident tonight at home, but the Tomcats are here to rain on their parade.
That's right, Sam. Check out Connor Wright on Trimble's first drive of the game. He makes his way up the middle and into the end zone for 6 yards for the score. That touchdown capped off a 63-yard drive by the Tomcats.
Trimble's now up 6-0. Austin Baker gets the return. He shakes off a couple Tomcat defenders before he's taken down around the 37-yard line.
Now Logan Drummer, lined up in shotgun formation, tries to take things into his own hands as he gets a 6-yard gain for a first down. But the Tornadoes, unfortunately, couldn't make anything happen on that drive.
Fast forward to the second quarter. Connor Wright's still wide awake and ready for action. He takes the handoff from Cam Kittle. Look at this. 3 Southern defenders are on his tail, but he's not sweating it. He'll gain 21 yards. Next play, he'll pick up the last 7 yards for a touchdown. Tomcats are up 12-0.
Sam, Connor Wright can run, but so can Cam Kittle. On this next play, he gets the snap, fakes with a little hesitation and bounces to the outside. He uses his legs, and he fought for every one of those 28 yards on this run here. He goes on to score on that drive, keeping Trimble on top 25-0 before halftime, and Trimble goes on to win the game 51-0.
Man, another dominant victory for Trimble, and a big part of that is the cast of characters they have on offense. Sam, we'll start with you. What did you see?
Blake, like we've been saying all season long, Trimble's offense is a force to be reckoned with.
For sure.
For starters, there's the dual threat quarterback Cam Kittle. He's a great passer, but he knows how to use his legs when things get tough in the pocket. Plus, they have Connor Wright, who they can always count on to muscle his way through the pack and make big gains. Keep in mind, these two guys are only juniors, but they also have senior Max Hooper, who completes this offensive trio.
All right, so I know we talk a lot about Trimble's offense, and for good reason, but once again, the Tomcats leave an opponent scoreless. T, what happened on the other side of the ball?
Blake, defense wins championships, and it looks like this Tomcat defense is what's going to lead Trimble to a TVC Hawking crown. For the 6th game this season, Trimble has shut out their opponent, and get this, the most points they've allowed in any game, 20. I got to give props tonight to the defensive front for securing the bag with another outstanding performance. Those big guys out there, Sean Turley, Ian Joyce, Alex Kaufman, Zach Guffey, and Jack Nagucki, a scary sight to see if you're on offense against them. They were able to slow down one of the best offensive duos in our coverage area, disrupting Trey McNichols' run game and sending the house to pressure Logan Drummer all night long. Southern's offense is high power for sure, but I don't think they've ever seen a defense like this.
Now, you know what? It sounds like that's one of the best Trimble teams we've seen in a while. Remember, they went to the state finals in 2013, and that was a pretty darn good team, too. We'll have to keep an eye on them as they approach the playoffs. But, guys, thank you a lot for the great work. We found our last TVC Ohio Fan of the Week 7 weeks ago, and that was in Nelsonville, York. This time around, our search took us to MacArthur. In Viking territory, at least one fan was about to stand out. What's your name, man?
Chase.
Chase. Why do you think you might be Fan of the Week?
I don't know.
That's not a very good reason.
Because I'm cool.
Well, I'm here on the Nelsonville side with Maya. Maya, what makes you think you could be our Fan of the Week?
I come to every single one of these games.
Buckeyes, let's hear it. Show that Buckeye spirit.
I came out here tonight to show my support for the boys, and I'm really excited. I really hope they beat Nelsonville tonight.
Yes.
On you and your son's special day, we're going to name you our Fan of the Week.
Thank you.
You want to flash it for the camera for us? Kelly was our biggest voice out there tonight, but we talked to a lot of good fans. They're closing out the season on a high note on the Vinton County Vikings. At senior night, thank you a lot for inviting us out there tonight. And there's still one more big game to get to. Entering tonight, NY has won 16 straight conference games. Vinton County does not want its senior night to be number 17, and that's why it's our game of the week. It's a big one in the TVC Ohio, and we sent Jacob Murray out there to MacArthur to see it.
Right. Nelsonville York is still undefeated in the TVC Ohio, and they're still in the playoff hunt, while Vinton County is trying to play spoiler here tonight. Now, even though they don't have much to play for, Vinton County was aiming for the upset, coming right out of the tunnel. But some star players just make big plays, as Keegan Wilburn here takes the cut to the outside, and he makes a move, a 30-yard touchdown run. This run will put NY up 7-0 early on. Now Vinton County on their next drive, they're here to answer, and this big run on the outside by Jacob Wells will put them into the red zone. Then Logan Baker looks like he's gonna go down right here on this play, on this run up the middle, but he stays right on his feet. He goes all the way down to the 1-yard line, and on the very next play, he would find his way into the end zone, a 1-yard touchdown to tie the game up at 7-all. But NY would fight right back as Wilburn tries to find space right here to the outside. He's going to take it. He's going to get that breakaway speed right there. Nobody's going to catch him. 48-yard touchdown run, putting NY back up 14-7. And a little shrug right there. Yeah, he's pretty good at football. Later, Vinton County would use some trickery right here to Lincoln Hayes right here tie the game up. It would be tied at 21 going into the half. Vinton County would win on a clutch touchdown by Jacob Wells late in the fourth quarter, and they would pull off the upset 39-35.
And Nelsonville York, the clear favorite coming into this one. That Vinton County offense just wouldn't quit, man.
Right, yeah. Vinton County was all over the field in this one. They were trying to find their way, getting up and down the field, but they really just could not. They came to a screeching halt, 16 straight conference wins. It just ended right there. Costly penalties gave Vinton County several first downs, extending their drives and giving them more points than they should have gotten. They completed a Hail Mary in the first half, but couldn't connect on the crucial one to end the game. Sometimes luck just isn't on your side, and that proved to be the case for NY tonight.
Well, Vinton County, from what you said, they've been pretty unlucky this season too, but that seemed to change tonight against the Buckeyes.
Yeah, but their upset tonight came because of their run game, with Sibner, Baker, Wells, and Hayes all getting a lot of touches in the Wishbone offense. You said it, bad luck has struck this team all year long, even at the end of the first half, and they gave up a Hail Mary touchdown going into it, but they made enough plays to win in a very thrilling way, with a touchdown by Jacob Wells with 32 seconds left in the game.
All right, so now tell me about these two teams' postseason chances after this ridiculous game.
For Vinton County, they got the upset tonight, though it doesn't help them much in the talk about postseason play. However, this kind of win could give you confidence going into their game with NY next year. With this loss, though, Nelsonville York now has almost no chance of making the playoffs. They started out 0-3 on the year, and they fought right back, but they needed to remain undefeated in their conference to make the postseason. Though they won't have much to play for, they could spoil a season of their own when they take on the Athens Bulldogs next week.
That was exciting. This one was really exciting. Jacob, thank you a lot for attending it tonight. Here, once again, it's my favorite part of the show. We get to bring you the 3 best plays from all the games we saw tonight. Naturally, we call them our top plays. So let's roll them. Taking out to Hernstein Field. That's the location of our 3rd best play tonight. And Omar Porter, 3rd out of 4 weeks that he's been on this list. And with a back shoulder catch over 2 defenders, no surprise why. And how about that throw from Gio Thomas? Watch it once again, 32 yards out, no problem at all. Number 2, the game you just saw, Vinton County. Braylon Dameron, little Lincoln Hayes action, backside Georgia reverse like your life depended on it. No seal on the edge, 11 yards out, touch the pylon, no problem. Once again, a little trickeration at the hands of the Vikings, and they go on to win in surprising fashion as well. But number 1 is the number 1 play of the game from this John Glenn and Nelsonville York matchup. Opening kickoff, Joseph Clifford's 2nd week in a row, he's returned a punt or a kick. Last week it was a 99-yard punt return. He's fast, not that fast. We just want to show you this massive stiff arm to get him into the end zone. That orange turf has crossed 70 yards, and like Noah said, quiet that crowd right away and wins, and they are in perfect position right now for their playoff hunt. So 9 weeks down now. Can you believe there's only 1 to go?
Blake, I really can't. This season has gone so quickly, but it's all come down to this. We are very excited for the important matchups that we're seeing next week.
Absolutely. You call it championship week, you call it rivalry week, whatever you want to call it, and we're going to kick it off in the final week of the regular season with the battle for the Doc Kroner Trophy. Buckeyes, Bulldogs. This one goes down at Boston Field for the TVC Ohio title.
Next up, 2 really good rushing offenses, the Golden Eagles and the Wildcats, close out the regular season in Waterford. 2 really productive running backs in this one, but Trimble still tops the Hawking, and the Tomcats host Wahama in Week 10.
And let me tell you something, folks. Holzer Field was rocking for the FAC Championship last year. I expect nothing less this season. The Ironmen go to Hernstein Field to face Chillicothe. You want to know how deep the MVL is? We're bringing you 3 games from that conference next week.
Oh yeah, Maysville heads to Tri-Valley, the Raiders are set to battle the Generals, and New Lexington will travel to the home of the Electrics.
So that's next week. We're really excited for it, but we're going to let it speak for itself. You got to tune in then. So join us next week. And until then, remember, there's nothing better than Friday nights and Gridiron Glory.